All right, we are coming to Friday, December 26th. A on-time Happy Friday, a belated Merry Christmas, and some Happy Holidays. This is the Pats Interference Podcast, a couple of days late on the jolly, judicious, Juno-esque Silliness Media Network. We are a couple days late because there is an old saying that goes, man plans and God laughs. And there's a new saying that goes, man plans and newborn spits up, pees on, leaves a dirty diaper on said plans. Not to blame my near 7-week-old, but you can imagine, come Christmas, travel, newborn, work, things get a little crazy. So we don't have a 4-minute drill today. That will be next week, as promised, with Craig Woodson, Patriots rookie safety, barring an injury, of which there have been a lot. We do have all of your mailbag questions. So anyone who got back to me on Twitter, on Blue Sky, over a dozen questions. We will talk some Pats-Jets. And I've got a little end-of-the-year countdown, 10 best Patriots moments. This is more fleshed out in the Boston Herald. Actually not up on the site yet. So I will run down those episodes, those moments at the end of this episode to give you the best of what was a very, very good 2025 for the Patriots. Now, it's been a tough Friday. Not for me, coming off of 4 hours of radio, which was good over with Matt McCarthy over on Zolak and Bertrand. But the news that broke from Foxborough, expected to some degree about their injury report, because you know they should beat the Jets regardless. They're 13.5-point favorites. But I would not be surprised if that spread moved from this morning to where we're speaking now, and it's just about 3:30, because the following players are going to be out Sunday for the Patriots. Milton Williams staying on IR. Kayshon Boutte, Matt Collins, Kyrus Tonga, Jared Wilson, Robert Spillane, and Harold Landry. On top of that, Travion Henderson out of the red non-contact jersey because he's in concussion protocol, but still questionable, as is Pop Douglas, who has a hamstring injury. So what that means is you're going to see a lot of Corey Durden on the interior. You're going to see a lot of Efton Chisholm, probably at wide receiver, which I know makes a handful of you sickos in the best way very happy. But if you're the Patriots, if Pop Douglas can't play, that means you are down to Stephon Diggs, Efton Chisholm, and Kyle Williams basically at receiver. You could promote John Giles and Jeremiah Webb from the practice squad, which we'll find out tomorrow, Saturday, probably about this time. But the point is, you're relying on a lot of people there inside. Eric Gregory is another one, defensive tackle, rookie, who you've not heard a whole lot about because ideally you don't hear from a guy like that this late in the season. But they're going to be playing starring roles Sunday against the Jets. Now, this is where we would normally do the deep dive into the film and the numbers and the Jets. The Jets are starting Brady Cook. Like, I'm not going to force feed you anything more, especially coming off of a day where I ate like half of my weight in delicious food on Christmas. The point is, we know the Jets stink. So we're going to do the basics, and I'm going to tell you what the danger could be Sunday. If there is a little bit of danger, go into the mailbag, top 10 moments, and I'll give you my game pick. So the Jets, how badly do they stink? Well, according to the DVOA, they're 30th in the league. So the third worst team in the league. They are 3-12, 30th on offense, 30th on defense, first in special teams. We're going to hear about that in a second. Here are their last 4 games. 29-6 loss at New Orleans. Week before that, 48-20 loss at home versus the Jaguars. Before that, 34-10 loss versus the Dolphins at home. And they beat the Falcons 27-24 because the Falcons insist on being the most hateable team in the entire league and don't make any sense. But this isn't about Atlanta. This is, as I said, a Brady Cook-led Jets team. Brady Cook, in case you're not familiar with his work, is from University of Missouri. And this season, he has completed 59% of his passes for a touchdown in 6 picks. So the Jets are kind of packing up the tent here, and they're leaving behind the least equipped Boy Scout to do it because they're on to 2026 in a way that is they're only playing out the season because they have to. Now, they will be at home. It is still any given Sunday. So where are the dangers for the Patriots, even if this stays a 13.5-point spread on Sunday? Number one, it has to be their own doing, right? And when I talk about danger, we have to technically admit that there's an upset possibility here. But let's say it's a close game where you're uncomfortable 3:30 on Sunday, about 48 hours from now. What's happened to get the Patriots there in like a 3-point game, tie game, fourth quarter, whatever? What's gone wrong that you could have foreseen? Number one, they took a nap, which is what Mike Vrabel has guarded against, it seems like, the last 2 months of the season when you're playing teams a lot like the Jets in that they stink and have bad quarterbacks. So let's say Drake May has a first quarter like he did against the Bengals, where he's just spraying passes all over the place and no one can excuse it except for your guy here who said he had a Skyline chili hangover, which is what it looked like that day in Cincinnati. Now, the good news is there's not supposed to be any real weather issues against the Jets. 40 degrees, cloudy. That's it. Now, offensively, you're also down, again, Jared Wilson, your starting left guard. So you're maybe you're not winning the line of scrimmage in the way that you would expect. And in the scenario, of course, Tre'Von Henderson's not there to bail you out of your bottom rate success rate with these occasional explosive runs to get you on the board or at worst get you downfield. On the other side of the ball, your defensive line doesn't show up against what's actually a decent offensive line for the Jets. It's not world beating. It's not like as good as Mike Vrabel's mini midweek Bill Belichick impression was at some of these press conferences where you're just grasping at compliments. And look, I'm not saying Vrabel's entirely BSing you about how much he likes their offensive line. What I'm saying is they're not as good as he made them sound. Point being, you don't have to be great. You don't have to be good to push around Corey Durden and Eric Gregory, which is not to pick on those guys because next to them, Christian Barmore, as we've documented many times in this podcast, has 4 quarterback hits in the last 10 games. So if the Patriots lose control of the game and that they don't get an early lead and that the Jets who want to run the ball actually run the ball, they can run the clock, limit possessions, keep Drake May off the field. And when they do take a shot, Adonai Mitchell, the receiver they traded for from the Colts, who is, I don't want to say George Pickens-like because that's cheap, but you want to talk about a player who fell in the draft, similarly to the second round, freak athlete, tall, fast, all this different stuff, but fell because of some personality concerns, mental approach to the game. That's AD Mitchell. What he can do, though, when his head is screwed on straight, is beat Christian Gonzalez on several routes like he did a month ago on Thursday Night Football. Only a couple resulted in catches or near catches, but the point is there's a guy at least out wide that you go, could be a problem. So, look, all of that is unlikely to happen, but the most likely thing that could give the Patriots problems is this: special teams. As I said, Jets have the number 1 special teams in the league by DVOA. This is part their coverage. It is part their returns. It is part their field goal kicking. Hello, old friend Nick Folk, who it's hard to believe was here 4 years ago and is still kicking since then. But the point is, if they're able to get big gains like we've seen the Patriots give up on special teams until they just said in Baltimore, F it, just take the ball at the 35. Just go ahead. We're going to kick it through the end zone. Touchback it is. Okay, you do enough of that or you give up field position at midfield, maybe even a return touchdown, you're playing with fire here. Now, is that all to add up enough to affect the Patriots or knock them off of a game we all know if they win and Buffalo loses, the Bills are playing the Eagles at home, the Patriots get the division? We shall see. I'm going to give you a game pick at the end, which we're not been the hottest picking games here on the show, but we're going to save that for the end. In the meantime, it's mailbag. It's in the title. Let's go through these quickly. Top 10 moments, game pick, and we'll get out of here. Trenny Casey of Early Edition. I would say friend of the show. She's never been on, but I've been on her show plenty of times. Wants to know, because they asked this 3 days ago, what is my top grievance about the Pats? Parentheses, all caps, Festivus. This is asked on Festivus, December 23rd. Red zone defense has to be the answer, in my opinion. And I understand a lot of people could pick at smaller things, or maybe it's a player, or maybe it's, someone who's been disrespected and this and that. The thing is, when you're a defense, you just can't have an opponent cross the 20-yard line and just kind of roll out the red carpet to the end zone, which they've done in 75% of their defensive possessions. This is like anyone who crosses into the doorway in your apartment, getting to make themselves at home, and you don't really have a say over the place where you live. It can't happen. You can't function that way. You can't win or host or handle big days and big games living like that, the way the Patriots have been living. Within that, though, I'll give you another one. They're in the bottom 12 in terms of pass deflections. So I would say that the tightness of the coverage, the way you don't feel them play with force necessarily always in coverage. And it doesn't have to be that they need like a dozen picks. They only have 8, fine. But you need to at least, I think, be felt a little bit more for a team that we looked at in the secondary and go, Christian Gonzalez on one side, Carlton Davis on the other, Marcus Jones in the slot. All right, you got some pieces at safety that have changed, or guys have been cut or traded or whatever. That should be a good foundation to help offset the pass direction. It just hasn't happened. Speaking of Christian Gonzalez, Uno Privateer, do the Patriots have a lot of problems with Gonzalez? Would it shock you if they traded him in the offseason? Something has felt off about him since the hamstring injury and the reporting surrounding that. This goes on. With a few exceptions, it feels like he's underperformed. So you were right to feel that he's underperformed. This is a case, though, even as someone who has said I would not have voted him to the Pro Bowl. I don't think his case statistically or with the eye test warranted a Pro Bowl selection, but the statistical case is still better than you would think it is, and this is that case. Gonzalez is top 25 among corners by yards allowed per coverage snap. Okay, so how often you're on the field, how productive is the passing offense, and you can get into some of the target stuff and it gets a little noisy, man versus zone. The bottom line is when he's been targeted, he's allowed a 69.2 opposing passer rating, a completion percentage around 44%, and 5.7 yards per attempt. That's pretty damn good. He still has a goose egg in terms of interceptions, which shouldn't prevent him from going to the Pro Bowl because coverage numbers go deeper than that. But it also speaks to the point that I made about the lack of kind of playing with force, where you are bottom 12 in pass deflections. I'd like to see a little bit more there, where teams are not just like a little afraid, but pay for it when you throw in his direction. As far as a trade, I would be very surprised if the Patriots wanted to move on from their 23-year-old shutdown corner, who, yes, in this scheme and yes, this season has underwhelmed a little bit, but won't turn 25 until after next season. He is a premium player at a premium position who's exceptionally young and an elite athlete among elite athletes at his position. You need to figure out how to get more out of him. And I think it was a lot more noise than reporting around the injury. Not that the Patriots were super thrilled about the recovery and recovery timeline. But honestly, I think we would all acknowledge and admit games missed in September matter a lot less than October, November, and December, which would have been risked had he rushed back with that injury. Now, it took longer than I expected. It took longer than I think they expected. But you move on. I mean, Vrabel has said this before. Let's say this was even him who was miffed or not thrilled with the recovery process. You get it out and you don't hold any grudges. And with them, he's played in games. He's been available. And yeah, maybe he's not the all-pro caliber guy he was last year, but that player's not going anywhere. Like, this is a 23-year-old guy, not a 32-year-old one that you're wondering about is his best football ahead of him. It definitely is. It's just on you to keep him here and then get that out of him. Dismal snooze. How can the run defense get back to form? Is it scheme? Is it personnel? It's personnel, man. Milton Williams out. Robert Spillane is going to be out. Harold Landry, sneaky big one for their run defense, as a guy who's like not practice on Wednesday, not practice on Thursday, comes back on Friday, and then he's usually okay come game day. He didn't practice at all this week. And granted, they didn't practice on Thursday. It was Christmas. Nobody did. But the point is, the Jets average a little bit more going to the perimeter, even just on their designed handoffs, is something like 4.6, 4.7 yards per carry. And I get the Patriots are weak up the middle, but where the Jets strength aligns, they just took a hit, meaning the Patriots did. So it's on Anthony Jennings, Elijah Ponder, Keelan Chason, who we've talked about again and again and again, teams that just circle and go, we're going over there. It's an issue. A lot of that will be solved by health. You can stack the box. You can play bigger personnel groupings. You can try to steal gaps with different kind of run blitzes. They've been trying all of that. They started the Baltimore game with 4 defensive tackles and 4 linebackers. Okay? And we know Derrick Henry ended that drive with a 20-something yard touchdown run. The point is, they don't need to get back to form of being number 1 in the league or top 5 or top 10. You just have to be middling. And I think most of that is going to come back down to health, because the tackling has still been fine, which to me says, as you cycle through all of these schemes and tweaks and answers, and you're not really breaking down fundamentally, you just need better players out there for longer. And that's, again, boring, but going to come with health. Kyle, 2 questions, he says. Did the Booty non-pass interference call and Derrick Henry not playing on the final drives of the fourth quarter in Baltimore make you question everything you knew about football, like myself? No, it did not. Number 2, do you think the Patriots address wide receiver in the offseason or stay pat there? So it depends on your definition of address, which is not to run away from this question. It is to say, if the Patriots took another receiver on day 2 of the draft and they renegotiated, kind of kept Stephon Diggs, who has less than $2 million guaranteed. I'm not saying this, as you would know by now, and I would hope I'd know by now, to stir the pot in any kind of way. It's just to say that deal is probably going to be reworked. Let's say it goes well, he stays put. Do you count that as addressing the receiver position, where you kind of run it back with Diggs and Matt Collins and Kayshon Boutte and Pop Douglas and Ethan Chisholm still hanging around, Kyle Williams plus this rookie? Because if so, yes. If you want them to go sign Alec Pierce, who, a heads up, is going to be the name you hear all across radio and TV and podcasts for most of the next 3 months before we get into free agency, I'm going to say no. I don't think Alec Pierce, as good as he is in contested catches, which we know Mike Vrabel covets, and he's got the size, he's at a physical peak, where I think he's 26, big receiver, good long speed. I think they'd like to add him, but in terms of the positions they need to address, you don't start with one that's a part of a top 5 passing offense and has been for much of the season by EPA. You invest in your young players, Booty, Kyle Williams. You add another one in there for when Hollins and Diggs age out of that group, and you see what you get between Efton Chisholm and Pop Douglas. That's just kind of what I see there. Jordan, do you think Robert Spillane, Milton Williams, and Kyrie Stongan coming back 100% for the playoffs would tighten up the run defense close to what we saw in the first half of the season, or are there other glaring issues? So we just kind of hit on this. It is the biggest piece. There's also an element of you just wonder how sustainable playing at that level was. And I get it was basically half of the season, but this is akin to, you remember 2019, the Patriots had that number 1 defense in the league, and it was beyond historic, like elite numbers, in a way that I said, look, I get what the sample is, but the signal in that sample is so strong, I don't really need to see anymore. This is an elite defense. They play the second half of the year, give up a big spot to the Ravens in their first loss on Sunday Night Football, lose the Texans on Sunday Night Football, spiral from there, yada, yada. It was still a really good run defense, really good defense as a whole. Gilmore was Defensive Player of the Year, yada, yada. But they didn't maintain that elite level. They came down a little bit and were still like top 3 in points allowed. I think there's an element here where you just don't have to get back to like above average. Can they do that? Yes. The big key, though, will be that bye week, because it's not just the rest that gets players back onto the field. It lets players get back to full form 100% when they are on the field, which is just going to be chipped away the more you play, including that wild card round. Of course, they need to win the next 2. Denver has to lose to the Chargers, who, if you're listening, cross your fingers, the Chargers beat Houston this Saturday, because then Chargers-Broncos next weekend will be the de facto AFC West championship game and something for the Chargers to really shoot for. So there are some other issues around that, but again, you're not going to solve everything week 17. The thing you can solve with time and patience is the health part. Pat, season ticket holder, any insight into Alex Austin's mystery cast on his left wrist? He's got a left wrist injury. Goes on to say he hopes cutting/trading Duggar would ease our move tight end coverage disaster. Austin's size, speed, and aggressive approach is problematic with receivers. Maybe he could play tight ends. Thoughts? Okay. So Alex Austin hasn't been good against anybody that he's lined up across from this year. And you could argue for a smaller sample thing earlier in the season. He's just not going to get a lot of rope as a former 7th round pick now in another new system, who does have some playmaking on his tape in recent years, but is not making you an offer that they can't refuse or even can't like dismiss after a few seconds. Like, there's a reason Charles Woods, Rams special teamer, started playing ahead of Alex Austin before Alex Austin even got hurt. So he's hurt. I don't think they're counting on him in a big way or even a small way for the playoffs. It's more a matter of stay here, get healthy. We could use the depth if we need it. But if we don't, they're just kind of pressing forward. Jason, let's talk about the first 2 rounds of the draft. What are your top 2 needs? Edge, and I'll tell you after this. Because first, you know what time it is. It's time for me to tell you about Prizepicks. Prizepicks stayed up very late with me the other night. You can imagine watching a basketball game, Timberwolves Nuggets. It was outstanding. And the best part was I had my newborn daughter in one hand. I had my phone in the other. And I filled out a lineup of 2 to 6 players. It was Nikola Jokic and Anthony Edwards. And I go more or less on any kind of stats. And if you don't like the NBA or you don't like staying up late, you can do this with football. You can do this with hockey. You can do this with the Patriots, because as every Friday we do, I'm about to give you some Prizepicks picks. But in case you don't know still what I'm talking about, at Prizepicks, the simplest and best place to win money while you watch sports, that's all you have to do is pick players that you're watching or not, pick a stat that they're with on the board, on the Prizepicks board. You go more than or less than. You can pick whatever stat you want. Sometimes you can even tweak the number. You put them into your lineup of 2 to 6 players and you file it, and that's it. And here's the best new feature as they celebrate Picksmas, where you also get discounts and deals. So if you've really waited all this time listening to this podcast and not downloaded Prizepicks with a big perk coming at the end of this, do so now with their discounted deals. And here's the new feature, early payouts. So imagine if your first 2 picks in this 3-player lineup on Sunday, Patriots play the Jets, both of them hit, right? You can cash out before that third player gets more or less than receiving yards or touchdowns or rushes or passing yards or whatever it is. You now have the option to cash out those winnings before Pats-Jets even finishes. Just kick your feet up, have some eggnog, and hang out, but only at Prizepicks, where right now, if you download the Prizepicks app today and use code CLNS, you will get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50, 50, in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, it's good to be right. So, I said edge. The next one I'm going to give you, I think it's safety. And I like what I've seen from Craig Woodson. I don't like that Del Pettis is your third safety as a guy who they've been really reluctant to play. But I think if you're going to build this team back out, yeah, you need a future starting right tackle, and that'll be big. You might be able to bridge that with a day 2 pick. So we're talking about big needs. Who are you swinging for first in that first round? I know Jason said the first 2 rounds of the draft, but edge is number 1. It might even be number 2. And then I'm going to go down the middle of the defense because you need to be strong up the middle. And if you re-sign Kyrus Tonga, feel good about him, Milton Williams, and Barmore. Linebackers, Spillane is going to be the big key piece there. You could argue for some depth, but I'm fine with Christian Ellis starting next to him. You'd ideally, again, a long-term player. But who's to say that Jalen Hawkins, a free agent, by the way, is ready to return, or you couldn't upgrade over him with a second-round pick or a first-round pick at safety? That's what I'm looking for. Guys strong up the middle of this defense that is going to need more help than you would offensively. If you want to talk me to a right tackle, fine. But Morgan Moses, based on what I've seen this year, might be able to squeeze out another season at 35. So there you go. Our Prizepicks picks of the week. I almost forgot. This number might have changed based on the injuries today. I'm telling you, Stephon Diggs, more than 3.5 catches. Easy, 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 in my opinion. We've had some misses this year. Granted, nothing is a guarantee. That should go without saying. But all the injuries they've had and a defense that's batting its number 1 receivers. Stephon Diggs, more than 3.5 catches. If it's 4.5, take more than. Oh, and Nick Folk, more than half a field goal. Okay, the Jets are going to get some points, and they're not all going to be touchdowns, as bad as the Patriots' red zone defense is. So Stephon Diggs, more than 3.5 catches. Nick Folk, more than half a field goal. Let's go through some more. Kenny, with Kayshon Boutte and Pop banged up, the Patriots playing the Jets and Dolphins to close out the year. Does Efton Chisholm get a couple more game day activations? Yeah, totally. He'll be up. John Giles, I think, would be my guess over Jeremiah Webb, but we'll see. Vrabel had nice things to say about both of them in his press conference after practice. But yeah, Chisholm for sure. Ed, which Pats player or coach should be Santa for the team party? I just mentioned him. I think it's got to be Morgan Moses, right? My man's got the beard. He's older. He's got the gut, as a lot of offensive linemen do. You can dominate. His position coach, Doug Marrone, is an older dude who's been around. Maybe not the jolliest of assistant coaches, but yeah, I think Morgan Moses is a sensible pick. Joe, if you were putting together a syllabus for advanced NFL course, what books or writers would you assign to explain coverages, offensive and defensive schematics, etc.? So there is a great resource that I have in one of my bajillion bookmarks that is just football reading. And I want to say it was Matt Miller who compiled all these different articles and pieces, but there are a couple of authors I'll give you because when you want to get specifically into coverages, Cameron Soran, Soran, did a whole glossary of saving coverages. I have the book. You can get it. It's on Amazon. It's cheap. Cody Alexander is another one who's really deep into quarters, which you see a little bit more from the Patriots. And Chris B. Brown, Smart Football, who I don't think is as active on social anymore, has a couple of books. You got some Belichick stuff in there. But Cameron Soran, Cody Alexander, and Chris B. Brown would be my number 1, 2, and 3 picks for that. There's some other stuff too. And if you want the Google Doc that I just mentioned, I will dig that up for you if you DM me or shoot me an email. Last one from Ryan. How's the kid's first Christmas shaping up? Pretty good. She slept for the first time for 4, I think it was just over 4 consecutive hours last night, which was outstanding and a little bit of a shock. Because it still doesn't feel like it as I'm sitting here with you today. I slept 4 consecutive hours like she did. But here we are. She's doing very well. Thank you for asking. And yeah, it's crazy that she's 7 weeks old. But nobody else came to hear about her. So let's get to the 10 best moments of the Patriots year in 2025. And then the game pick, and we'll get out of here. Number 10, rehiring Josh McDaniels. January 21st was when this was first reported. So this was 10 days after Mike Vrabel was officially hired. They went through Thomas Brown, Grant, he went to the Jaguars. His last name's escaping me, but it starts with a U. Anyway, it was a smaller search. You land on McDaniels. We can all see what this has done for Drake May. We're, of course, not crediting all of Drake May's success and development to Josh McDaniels, but the guy chiefly in charge of it is him. From a physical coaching and the quarterback standpoint, the schematics, the play calling, that was a big, big day for the Patriots. One that I don't think many people had bad things to say about in the first place. And the fact that the probably most common criticisms at the time were, oh, the playbook's, too bloated and it's too complicated. Young players can't play. Let's check in on Travion Henderson. Let's check in on Drake May, who's only 23, how they're handling that system. And it's a credit to McDaniels working with Thomas Brown and Todd Downing to par down some of the language in the way that he teaches it and grouping them into families that I think has helped. Stuff we talked about before, but that was a big one. Number 9, this was December 1st, beating the Giants, Monday Night Football. Famously, the night your boy remembered that people get really, really mad when you make bad, all caps, bold, game picks against their favorite team, because I've not heard from that many of you in a long, long time that when I picked the Giants in that game, thinking the Patriots were tired, banged up, end of the road, everyone lays an egg. Hear what it was. No, it wasn't. More importantly than beating the Giants in primetime was that extended the win streak to 10. It had the Patriots as the number 1 seed in the AFC at that time. And you're looking and going, who can stop us? It's the Bills, Ravens, Dolphins, Jets. If they get Buffalo, just cruise to the playoffs. Obviously, they don't, but at that time, a big and national TV moment for them for what they had been doing. Number 8, March 10th. You don't remember March 10th? I'll just give you a couple of names. Milton Williams, Robert Spillane, Carlton Davis, Matt Collins, Karis Tonga, our guy. This was day 1 of free agency. And the Patriots missed early on their top targets. Chris Godwin, T. Higgins was there somewhere, but never really going to happen. Ronnie Stanley, whiff. Instead of striking out, though, they pony up way more than they expected for Milton Williams, which is to say 2 things. Number 1, you got a player that you just flat out needed at that point as far as blue chip talent is going out the door, and you can't keep any of it there to sign. So you get a blue chip player. You also show and signal by handing out the richest contract ever for a Patriots player that you are willing to spend money and then add on that in free agency. But it was really just all of that together. So you could pick Milton Williams, your favorite signing, pretty much all of which hit, by the way, as a big, big moment defined by a bunch of different players. Number 7, the escape from Miami, 33-27. This is week 2 on September 14th. Milton Williams gets the sack to seal the game. There's a punt return touchdown, then a kick return touchdown, and then the Patriots go down and kick a field goal and then hold Miami right there. And what was obviously a very sloppy end, and half of Devon Achane's foot landing out of bounds kind of saved their asses that day. But the point is, you won in the House of Horrors. That was Mike Vrabel's first win as a head coach. Drake May winning on the road. Like, there's a lot there that I think I put at the time, like planted seeds of hope. We didn't know where the season was going to go, but it doesn't start that way or continue the way that it has unless they started that way in Miami, especially coming off that loss to the Raiders. Number 6, toppling Tampa Bay, 28-23. This was November 9th. In my opinion, this was the win that launched, okay, they're legit. And I know the Bucs aren't in the playoff picture anymore, but the point is to go on the road against a talented team, which we can say, decent enough quarterback in Baker Mayfield, and win as underdogs to extend what was then, I think, a 7-game win streak. They were contenders. That announced themselves. And I don't think any of you really disagree. Number 5, going backwards, April 25th. This was not day 1 of the draft, which Will Campbell's pinned down, don't get me wrong. But day 2, we knew it was a home run in the moment. Travion Henderson, as much as I poo-pooed taking a running back that high, 38th overall, in the deepest running back class since the invention of the football, I wanted RJ Harvey. Not a big deal. We're over it. Patriots get Kyle Williams, who I might have taken had I been the GM at 38. They trade back, still get Jared Wilson. So you add picks into the future, and you pick up 3 future offensive starters, 2 guys who are basically starters now, one who definitely is, all on one day of the draft. I don't know how much more you could have asked for, especially in real time, knowing that they had addressed and added to some real positions of need. Huge day for this season and the future of the franchise. Number 4, Stephon Diggs. We did, I think it was an emergency pod. And there was some hesitation, right? Because we just said the splash signings, day 1 of free agency were March 10th. He signs 15 days later. So part of it was injury. Part of it was culture fit. we established and reported, my guy Doug Hyde and I, he wasn't their plan A, wasn't their plan B, at best was plan C. And so for them to go do that, it was after a visit, you have a deal. It was basically a team-friendly deal. It's a one-year contract. We just said under $2 million left guaranteed. And he's under contract through next season and the season after that. Really, really good move. And I don't have to tell you how good it's been since, because he might have a 1,000-yard season at the end of the year. And for a dude to do that, for a guy to do that at age 32 coming off the ACL, the first number one receiver in New England since prime Julian Edelman, obviously a big day. Here are the top three. Beating Buffalo in primetime. This was the spark that lit the blaze that has been most of the Patriots season. 23-20, the Drake May game-winning drive, first of his career. Again, big spot against Josh Allen, under literal pressure, getting dragged down by his collar on that first completion to Diggs. Then a whole shot to Kayshon Boutte for a couple plays later that kicked the field goal. Just an awesome game. Really well played. Well coached defensively. Zach Core called a really good game. I don't know if he's had as good of a game since then. But at that point, you're just going, they did something, meaning the Patriots, that you believe in and hadn't felt that way in a while, which is hence why I wrote that night, it's time to believe in the Patriots again, of which they've given you 9 straight wins after that, or 8 straight wins after that to believe in them. And now, again, are going to go to the playoffs and are one of the favorites for the Super Bowl. So big, big day. Number 2, Mike Vrabel getting hired January 12th. You knew he was going to raise the floor and that there was a Super Bowl ceiling here, because he was just going to take everything, modernize it, bring a level of competency. This was the defensive staff. It was a support staff. It was some analytics stuff. It was to build up the front office. Ryan Cowden comes aboard days later. Obviously, you knew things were going to get better than they were under Gerard Mayo. The question was just how much. And to see how much things have gotten better across the board, more than I ever expected, and I think pretty much anyone ever expected, is a credit to Vrabel, because everything emanated from him. That's where it started, at least anyway. Not everything is a credit to him now, the way that they're playing on the field. There are too many players, too many coaches, too many support members of the sports staff to point to say that. But that was the starting point for everything. And he continues to drive it in a way that it's just impressive, because they talk about they should have laid an egg at some point. They haven't yet. That's good coaching. Number 1 was last Sunday night. Patriots clinched playoff berth. It's the first time they did it in 4 years. Drake May has his first fourth quarter comeback, down 11, down bad, bunch of teammates injured. I do not care that these Ravens are not those Ravens of the years past. This was a huge spot in prime time, tough road environment, real stakes for Baltimore. And you go down and do it anyway. The decision-making, the poise, everything Jared and I talked about last week, or last Monday, what time is it? Still holds true. Awesome win, landmark moment, the best moment so far of 2025. And frankly, unless, I don't know what can happen on Sunday against the Jets, but I'm going to tell you it's probably not going to top that. So those are our top 10 moments. I got your game pick right here. Patriots are going to win. It's going to be closer, though. You're going to be a little uncomfortable. 26-17. They go down to the Meadowlands, leave. And I don't know what's going to happen in Buffalo. But the Patriots will be division champs. It's just a matter of this weekend or next weekend. We shall see. In the meantime, we'll be back with another Mike Giardi Monday coming up. After that, we'll be back. Fingers crossed. Knock on wood. A 4-minute drill with Craig Woodson next week. A guest to break down Pat's Dolphins. And playoffs, baby. Talking playoffs. Playoffs! See ya.